What is up, Colts fans? We are back with another episode of the SI Colts Draft Show. We missed you guys last week. Hag was a little under the weather, so we decided to push it back. We have a lot of months until the draft, so we can push it back a little bit here. But, we talked about quarterbacks 2 weeks ago, and, the normal, sane people would go to running backs next. That's what normal people would do.
Natural
But
progression.
we got a little antsy. We wanted to go to the defense side of the ball. We wanted to talk about something that we've been talking about on this channel for the entire year. So we decided to look at the corners. We went with the corners this week. That's Hag's specialty. That's something that I was really big on years ago. And unfortunately, I'm watching Trench Guys for the draft guide I'm working on with some friends. So I haven't really been able to watch a ton of them, but I did peep at the list here. So I want to throw up Hag's ranking, his most recent ranking. I think this is from a couple weeks ago? You put this up?
About 2 weeks ago. I put it up 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, Hag put up his ranking. Here it is right here. You can find it on his Twitter account at John Hagler CR. And yeah, this was something I think it spawned some pretty good discussion because this is not like the names are the ones that we're seeing up there with everybody, but they're not in the order that everybody is saying. What would you say on this list here got the most? I don't want to say like backlash, but like discussion on Twitter for you.
The two biggest ones off the rip were Mccreary at 2 and Ahmad Gardner at 5.
Yeah,
that was the most responses I got. I got a bunch of why Sauce so low, why Gardner so low. I got a couple Booth under Mccreary, things like that. Those were the main questions that I had. And I have my opinions on them, and I have my reasoning that I have them in that order. I think all of them can definitely play, but yeah, definitely Mccreary and Sauce Gardner.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into it here, and let's talk about your top guy, Stinglet Jr. I feel like he's a great example of someone who's kind of getting that prospect fatigue. Yep. He's the guy who has been the top corner in the draft for 3 years. Like 3 years ago, we're talking about the draft, and we're saying how Stingley's gonna be the number one corner.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't even a discussion. It was just he's one. He's CB1.
Yeah, it didn't even matter who else showed up, who else got up there. He was going to be number one. And I think we're seeing now, we're seeing the Sauce Gardner cornerback 1. We're seeing Booth cornerback 1, which that's totally me right there. So I call myself out. Yeah. I'm calling myself out. We're seeing Elam at cornerback 1. But we're seeing a ton of different guys at cornerback 1. But you stuck with Stingley. What do you like about Darion Stingley Jr.?
One, his only bad games came against arguably the best college receiver that we've seen in the last 20 years. His worst game, which is fair. The kid Devontae Smith torched everybody. Okay. And people have that memory in their head, and I get it. But you have to understand that one of those touchdowns when Stingley was a freshman, it was a homework play. Hey, when we check, he's going to look to the sideline, check.
Yes, that's
the ball.
Tough. That's
what I mean.
Man.
Snap the ball, and we're gonna go at him. Super savvy move, heads up play by Bama. So that's in the back of his mind. And then the rematch, Smitty got the better of him again. 2 of his only touchdowns in his career were against Devontae Smith. So people have this in their head. The reason I have Darion Stingley at 1 is because when you can play press man at a high level and you look comfortable doing so, Stingley, his stance all the way to his position is beautiful, right? It's beautiful. Nobody's gonna have a better workout than him. These guys are gonna watch this kid work out. His feet are beautiful, like they're crisp, they're tight. He's gonna test better than any other corners in this class. He's a freak of nature. He's gonna go sub 4.4. He's gonna jump 40. Like elite athlete. And this is kind of like the Jamar Chase situation where last year, I entertained Waddle and this and that. But I said it on the podcast, and I was like, look, Jamar Chase is going to test and he's going to work out. And people are going to be reminded how quickly, like, oh, no, this is a special talent.
Yeah.
This is a special talent. And that's what's going to happen with Darion Stingley. They're going to watch this kid work out. They're going to watch him test. And there's no way in hell he's not going to be he's not going to be the top guy because traits matter more when evaluating, especially cornerback, edge, when an edge or somebody runs like a 4.4, when a corner runs a 4.3, and then when they crush the workout, it's hard for other guys to jump them. It just is.
Yeah, and we're not talking about a 5'8" guy who's going to run 4.3s or something. We're talking about I think he's what, 6'1", 6'2"?
He's going to come in a little bit over 6, like probably 6'1.5" officially,
Yeah.
6'1", right there. Long kid. He's not light, but he's not the biggest, probably 195-ish. He checks all the boxes. He's a prototype, type kid, elite, rare ball skills that we just don't see often at the cornerback position. And I just think he checks too many boxes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, no, that he's not gonna get after it like something. He's not like that. He's not J.C. Horn, where he's gonna just beat the hell out of guys at the line of scrimmage.
No.
And I think people are kind of going towards that type of corner now. So if your top guy is not like that, people are kind of moving off it a little bit. But at the end of the day, Stingley, like you said, is he going to be the prototypical height? He's going to be good weight, good arm length. He's going to test out of this world. He's got production, and he did it in the conference that you want these guys to do it in. I mean, he's doing it in the SEC. And I know I'm actually curious because you have a lot of SEC guys on here. Let me pull it back up here. I think you have, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SEC guys on here.
Yep.
How much does that weight in your grades? That like these are the guys going against you have the NFL, and then you have the SEC, and then the rest of college football.
Yeah.
Like that's basically what it is.
It makes the evaluation, I think, a little bit easier. We hear the SEC bias talk all the time, and I don't think it's a biased thing. Like when you look year in and year out, this conference had the most guys invited to the combine. This conference had the most guys drafted. This conference had this many on the All-Pro team. It's not a bias if it's real.
Yeah.
And so when I get the chance to watch or evaluate these guys, and I'm like, okay, what's the 3 or 4 best games? Oh, okay, that guy's all rookie. That guy's all pro. That guy's all pro. I can literally turn on a Derek Stingley film or Jalen Armour Davis or Martin Emerson, and I can literally pull up them matching up with all pro receivers right now in year 1 and 2 in the NFL.
Yep.
These other guys the competition isn't as deep, and it helps me. Okay, that's how he's going to match up in the NFL against elite talent. Not that you have to, but it just makes the eval a little bit more simpler in a very complicated process.
Right. Like someone like Stingley or Mccreary.
Yep.
Those guys were, we have tape with them going against Burks, who could be the number 1 receiver in this class.
Burks,
we have
Pickens, Jameson Williams, Mechie.
Just all the Bama guys. All the Bama guys alone.
Any of them.
I mean, just talking about, Sauce Gardner when we get to him, obviously. But Sauce Gardner, the best 2 receivers he played in his college. I mean, well, I guess Mechie didn't play in that game. But, I mean, the best receiver he played in his college career was the last one.
Yep. An entire career.
Yeah, in his entire career. Like, that one matchup was the best receiver he had ever faced.
Yep.
But guys like Mccreary, for instance, are seeing that every single week, or guys like Stingley are seeing that every single week. So while it's not saying, like this guy's gonna be ranked higher just because of that competition, you like to see these guys battle tested. It's easier to see the translation to the NFL. And I think, again, that's just another box that Derek Stingley checks off. And while I don't absolutely love him and think he's a number 1 prospect in this class, I think he's like a top 10 guy. I mean, I think you have to bet on traits. When it comes to the NFL, you have to bet on traits. And a guy like Stingley's traits don't come along very often.
No.
Like I'm not going to throw around generational prospect. I think there are some things he needs to improve on, and really
durability, things like that matter. But we saw I think he's a Marcus Lattimore type.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think
special mover, man. You gotta take those guys.
He moves elite. He's sticky in coverage. Concerns, a little bit of flaggage coming out injury wise. You gonna pass up on him? Because I know, you know what I mean. A lot of people they wanted to fall off Marcus Lattimore a little bit and instantly impact rookie, impact.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot with these corners that go in like the top 10 that are these freak athletes, where they come in day 1 and it's a franchise changer. I mean, Denzel Ward. Look at Denzel Ward when he came into Cleveland. Automatic number 1 corner.
Tre'Davious White, first round corner.
White, yeah. I mean, these guys are coming in and they're producing right away. You've got to take these special movers, and I'm with you. I think once Stingley tests, he's going to be like the official cornerback 1 of the class. Like I think, there's just no way you can go. I mean, again, you could love someone else's tape more, but when you are betting on traits, Derek Stingley's the guy in this class.
Yeah.
And then going to my favorite corner, the guy I've loved for a couple of years now. I'm a huge fan of him. I gush about him all the time. Well, I was gonna, you know what? Let's go to Mccreary instead. Actually, let's go to Mccreary. I love Mccreary a lot too, but we'll go to Booth after Mccreary. But Roger McCreary, that's the biggest one. I forgot that you have McCreary over Booth, because that's the big talking point here.
It's a surprising one for a lot of people.
It is, and I know, it's funny. So before the offseason, we actually talked a little bit throughout Hicks and Hag. You brought up McCreary a couple times, and I had watched him throughout the year because you kept bringing him up, and you were sending me some clips from September on Roger McCreary. I know you've been huge on him, and even though I knew you were super high, even him coming at number 2 kind of shocked me. Like, I know you answered this on Twitter, but why is he your number 2 over a guy like Andrew Booth or over Sauce Gardner?
So Roger McCreary, in the simplest form, this is kind of the thing. I said the same thing with J.C. Horn. When J.C. Horn was still like a third rounder to people before his last season, second, third rounder, I told a lot of people. I remember Brian McFadden was like one of the guys like talking, and my buddy sent it to him and was like, nah. He was like, yeah, he's probably a second round guy or something like that. And I was like, I looked at him, I said, no, he's going round 1. And, we kind of had this text conversation, through third parties and things like that. And, basically the reasoning was, don't overthink it. He can just play corner better than the other guys.
Yeah.
I was like, did I know he was going to test out of this world like that? No, I didn't. But it made
your bet a little easier.
Yeah, it would have made it a lot more. I'd have been talking a lot more cash. But Roger McCreary is an uber competitive and sticky corner. I can't overstate how important it is for you at corner to be sticky. And we could talk about length and things like that all we want to, but Roger McCreary, when he gets beat, it's usually like a tough play. When you watch him, the touchdown he gave against George Pickens or Jamar Chase, like the who's who. Jamar Chase earned everything against Roger McCreary. He had to take it. But Roger McCreary is just uber competitive and sticky in coverage, and that's what I like about him. He's hard to shake. He's frustrating. You sit up there and you tell me a guy's going to torch Roger McCreary for 4 quarters. It's just not going to happen. You'll get 1 or 2 balls, and maybe, but you're going to have to fight for him.
Yeah, I was super, super impressed when you showed me his film. And I actually have him as my corner 3 or 4. It's tough. That 3, 4, 5 is tough.
And that's fair.
And I think the biggest thing we're going to be talking about with him is we talked about this with Kenny Pickett a couple weeks ago, where this is kind of becoming the extreme outlier class. Kenny Pickett's going to have the smallest hands ever. In the history of the world, Kenny Pickett's going to have the smallest
8-inch hands.
8-inch hands. I have 7.5, but it's going to be somehow smaller than mine. Roger McCreary now is coming into this draft with, I think, 29 and a 4th inch arms.
Short, yeah, they were way shorter than I thought it was because, like, I've been on him in person, and he's taller than me. He's going to come in probably. What did he come in, 5'11" and something?
I think it was like 5'11", like 185 or something. I believe.
It was 188.
188, okay.
And that kind of shocked me a little bit. I just, you know how it goes. You have guys that, you talk to, like, that's one of the things you probably don't let him come in at 190 if you're his guy. You know what I mean? But, I didn't think he was going to come in, like, short arm like that. That was surprising.
And that's something that is drawing a lot of people kind of coming off the Roger McCreary hype train because I believe since 2010, only 2 corners have been taken before day 3 with arms under 30 inches. I think it's Dante Jackson and the kid that Tennessee took last year, that slot corner. Elijah Molden, I think is his name.
Molden is Washington?
Yeah, the Washington slot guy. Yeah. So Molden and Dante Jackson are the only 2 guys since 2010, I think, with that short
they're both
arms.
shorter than him, which is...
Yeah, Dante Jackson's are super short, but he's a freak athlete. So they I think he went in the 2nd round. But, you and I are both film guys. We're film guys true and true. But when you see we're not just talking like a minor outlier. We're talking
the outlier.
the outlier. I mean, statistically, guys like this do not have success in the NFL. Why are you willing to overlook that with McCreary?
Because he was too good to overlook.
Yeah.
So I think any guy that we mention or compare, right, in that category with him, I don't think anybody will say they cover as good as Roger McCreary did.
Yeah.
Dante Jackson was hit and miss in college. If he didn't run a 4.32, he doesn't go that early.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Elijah Molden, great football player, but it was a kind of a fit thing, but he's also undersized. If Roger McCreary didn't check every box, like I think he's probably going to be a mid 4.4 guy, something along those lines. If he was short, if he came in under 5'11", if there was one more thing, I probably would be willing to bet against it. But I think I saw somebody mention like Asante Samuels was the last one with those measurables. That was that good. And I was like, okay, that made me feel better because Asante was uber competitive and he was sticky as well.
Yeah.
The Roger McCreary thing, I can't overlook how competitive he was against the best players. I just can't. At the end of the day, he can play. At the end of the day, he's athletic enough. At the end of the day, he's productive enough against the best competition. It's not like these receivers are just going to get, longer in the NFL. He played the guys that he's going to be playing against. So, it helps, but it's definitely caught me off guard. It's definitely in the back of my mind, and I tussled with it a little bit. But I'm going to trust the film on this one, and if he busts, he busts. But if he doesn't, I'll look like a genius. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough, man, because again, at the end of the day, the film is where you find the real answers, and it's really good. I mean, we're talking, Dotson, he locked down this year.
Yeah.
And all the other guys. Dotson's the one that stands out the most to me, but he played against everyone.
Well, Dotson is because he's a nightmare matchup. Because Dotson can torch everybody.
Yeah.
Because he's so shifty and he's so quick. Like, if there's a guy you want to see him go up against, cool. Like, that's the one because that kid probably puts 99% of corners in a blender.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And he did. He did in college. Do you think this kind of means Mccreary moves more to being like a slot guy in the NFL, though?
It's possible. But it just depends. Like, I think he could because there was moments where he did it and there's a seamless transition. I saw people talk about it. I know Croc talked about it, and even my guy Adrian, he was like, I think he's probably better off in the slot. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of guys who could play bump and run like he can.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be hard for me to imagine a D coordinator having a guy like that and just saying, hey, your arms are too short. I'm going to put my third and fourth best cover guy on Jamar Chase this week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that kind of goes away, once you're on the practice field and they get to doing one-on-ones at practice. It's like, I can't ignore that. He still can be successful there. I'm not worried about it. But, it could. It definitely could slot him there.
Yeah, and just because shorter arms doesn't mean you can't play outside corner. I mean, Isaiah Rodgers, we watched all year.
Yeah.
And I guarantee his arms are not over 30 inches. That dude's 5'8" or 5'9". Like, they're not going to be over 30 inches. Yeah. Given he runs like a 4.2 flat, but he can fly. But Roger McCreary's a guy I'm not going to bet against. I really like his film. Maybe I lower him a little bit more because of it, just to be like a little cautious. But at the end of the day, he's still going to rank high for me. I saw enough on film, and again, that competitiveness with those guys, and like you said before we started recording, the length was never really an issue on film. If it were an issue, like Isaiah Rodgers, for instance, the length is a bit of an issue sometimes. He doesn't break the ball up at catch points enough, and he needs to get better at that. But with McCreary, that was never an issue.
Like the most productive corner ball-wise in the SEC the last 2 years.
Yeah. He gets those pass breakups. He plays through the hands well. It's really not an issue. So it's tough. It's something that you get scared of. You kind of like, oh man. Like for instance, like when everybody loved Cam Dantzler years ago, and then the combine came. And it's like, oh, am I still going to bet on this statistical outlier?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying McCreary's Dantzler. It's easier to work around short arms than it is work around a 4'6".
Well, think about this. Like, when have you ever watched a game and said, man, that kid's just, his arms just aren't long enough to play corner? You'll say it about speed. You'll say it about height. You know what I mean? But like, I've never saw a guy get caught on and say, man, his arms are too short.
Yeah. Like Isaiah Rodgers this year, every time he got caught on, I said he's got to be stronger at the catch point.
Yeah.
It's never been, because his arms are under 30 inches.
Got short arms, yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice if they were like 35 inches or
something.
It helps. That'd be great.
It definitely helps. Don't get me wrong. Like, it definitely helps. But, it's gonna be something to monitor. It'll be something to watch because it is a thing. So
yeah, he's gonna have to nail the combine. I think not test elite, but it's gonna have to be like
you have to check the boxes. Like he'll have to check all of them.
You can't come under on any of those now.
No.
Like he doesn't have that margin for error.
No.
But I like Roger Mccreary. Not as much like Booth and Stingley, but I'm all for him. But let's get to my guy here that I was hyping up before we talked about Mccreary. We're gonna get to Andrew Booth here. You're number 3, my number 1 corner. I just think the upside is so high with Andrew Booth. But what do you like about Andrew Booth for him to be your number 3 corner?
Booth was a guy that I thought about him being 2 at some point in the season. I was falling in love with him, like entertaining cornerback 1. He's so pretty, so you look at him and the highlight. I'm
gonna cut that, by the way. I'm gonna cut that point on queer that you just said. You saying that he's so
like,
pretty.
As a scout, if I look at Andrew Booth on a football field, I'm like, that's what I want my corner to look like. Well built. He plays tough. Like he plays strong. The only thing honestly holding him back is I feel like Clemson's scheme.
Jake said he recorded you saying that Booth's really pretty.
Hey, cool. Hey, look, when I say the only thing holding back is their defensive scheme. They run a ton of zone, and you don't get to see him playing press a ton.
It's typically like bump and
like they bail and get out. And I know Ohio State used to do it a lot, but that's the only thing holding me back. I'm like, well, can he? And then at times he just didn't seem as quick as say a Stingley or Mccreary out of the break on those medium routes. It just seems like something that he's just not super good at, and you can work on it. He's athletic enough and he'll be fine at it. But those 2 things were enough to knock him to 3 for me. Scheme, and then just being able to I didn't get to see him run down the field with a ton of guys because usually they were out of there by then. And then he's got a couple highlight plays, don't get me wrong, and they're disgusting.
Dude, if you throw a screen at his side, it's not going to end well for your
He's going to fly up. He's going to flop. He's going to blow you up. He's physical. He's super competitive. Even the NC State game when he got scored on, like they were fighting for that ball. Like that's when you get beat. That's what I want to see. I want to see you competing for that that last, make that receiver earn everything. And I think Booth does a really good job of it. Like I said, he checks the boxes as well. You can have him at 1 or 3, saying you won't hear a peep from me. So
yeah, I definitely think he's more raw than the other guys. Maybe even the other guys in the top 5.
Yeah.
Definitely those top 3 guys, the 3 guys we talked about here. I think he's more raw than Mccreary or Stingley. For me, I think comparing him to Stingley is kind of like last year with Surtain versus J.C. Horn.
Yeah.
I know that Surtain is going to be the better corner on day 1. And I know that he's probably going to have a head start along with being a very good athlete.
Yeah.
But just the way that Booth and the way that Horn play, that's my type of corner. Like you said,
got that dog.
I need the dog corner, man. I always need the dog corner. And Booth has been that, along with being a freaky athlete, along with being a guy who again, like you said, I want to see more press man. You and I are big press man guys.
Yeah.
We love seeing that press man. And I would love to have seen him in more situations, but I think he can do it. If his mindset tells me anything, I think he's going to beat the hell out of receivers at the line of scrimmage.
Well, he's just so physical and everything else. Like I can't imagine him not, because being that type of corner and press is more of a personality thing than anything.
Yep. So I really, really like Booth. I think if he goes to the right situation, he's going to be a very good corner in the NFL. And again, just let him fly up and make plays. If he goes to like a zone team, like I know it, like the teams I always think of obviously are like the Colts with this stuff. There's no way he's getting to mid-second round. But
it'd be perfect. He's the Colts corner.
Or like the Bills, for instance, along Trey White, if they somehow were able to get him. I hope that he just keeps slipping so we can get to the Bills. That would be a really that'd be crazy. But I just think of those type of teams. I think of him in those kind of schemes, or even like a Seattle scheme. Like the Seattle Seahawks type of scheme where it's press or getting that cover 3, like a lot of what he was doing at Clemson. I think he can just be a really good corner at the next level. But I really hope it's he gets in a spot where it's not. We're going to throw you in press every single snap. We're going to have you doing stuff that.
Well, I hope it's not like a Cuda in Detroit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Like
that's a good example. Yeah.
he seemed like such a shadow of himself, and I don't quite know why, but he didn't look like the same player in college. Like a lot of times, guys just fizzle out. Like, okay, like Corey Coleman, the offense at Baylor wasn't necessarily conducive for him being a pro, or certain corners may bust, in the NFL for whatever
Like
reason.
Henderson from, I think, from the same draft,
Yeah,
for instance.
see,
Yeah.
was it CJ?
CJ Henderson. Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't feel confident enough in this first day, so I just said Henderson. I
But
think it's CJ.
I don't think he was with Corey Coleman. I know you're talking about that, but yeah, it's like I don't draft a guy and then make him do something totally different than what he was successful at. Like, have an idea, and I feel like that's where guys go wrong, or teams go wrong in the first round. They're like, oh, okay, like he's athletic, what I'm saying, he checks my boxes, he can do whatever we need him to do. He can, but is that the thing that's going to lead to the most success for him?
Yeah, that's where I've gotten big with the positive traits scouting. Is where I like so much of when I first started doing this. It was always like, here's the good, here's the bad. Oh, there's some of these bad things or stuff I don't like, so he's not going to find success. Where it's more of, instead of me focusing so much on like, how am I going to stack guys 1 through 100? It's more of like, this guy can succeed in this type of scheme. This guy can succeed in this type of situation or in this environment. And I think that's more beneficial scouting, because so much of this is like, we always talk about, so much of this is just fit. So much of the 100%. NFL is fit. And, you could have a guy like let's talk about Isaiah Rodgers again, because this is the Colts show. If Isaiah Rodgers goes to almost any other team, because this past year he wasn't forced up in press much. He wasn't really like, anytime that he really had to run with the receiver, he was more an off man, so he had a little bit of a cushion.
Yep.
He was not in a super deep cornerback group, so he got the playing time.
Yep.
Is he anything more than a special teamer in any other team?
No,
he's a special teamer.
Well, he doesn't get the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll talk about it with any position. Quarterback, it can be edge, linebacker, DB. If you go to a team that just doesn't quite need you, or you may not get that opportunity, like, you can be at the NFL in 2 years. I don't care how good you are. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody's underutilized, like, look at Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Miami was at the time was so hell bent on making him a box guy, when he has a rare skill set and a feel for the game with instincts and a football IQ and ball skills, that he needs to be playing free safety. He needs to be roaming the back end, and they just refuse to do that with him, because he has the skill set and he demonstrated at Bama to be able to play in the box, but that doesn't mean he should be in the box.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
yeah, he could do it all, but there was obviously a real role for him in the NFL, and I'm glad the Steelers got their hands on him, and
they got lucky on that one.
Minka's one of my all-time favorite draft prospects.
Oh yeah, I was a big Minkah fan, man.
He's like my number one prospect in that class. I loved him so much. Getting to our next guy here, I think this is going to be the controversial one. No, it's actually Elam. Elam next. So Elam, and then we'll get to the controversial one that we'll throw all over Twitter. And well, let's talk about Elam here. I watched him right before we started recording. You and I were talking a little bit before we jumped on, and I feel like he's kind of under talked about right now. And I like, some sites have him as like cornerback 1, 2, or 3. Others will have him at like 7 or 8. I've seen a couple where he's like fringe top 100 guy, and I don't know. Again, you get an SEC corner who's comfortable in press. I think he's got good feet at the line. He'll be physical. He had a great game against Bama and those guys. I mean, Mechie gets everybody off the line, but
he's savvy.
Yeah, but Mechie got him a couple times, but for the most part, I thought that was a really, really positive game for him. I really like him. I got to watch more before I make anything final, but like, I don't see why he's not a first round guy from what I've seen.
Bro, you don't get that frame, big, 200 whatever he is. He looks like he's like 202. You know what I mean? Like, 6'1". I don't think he's an elite athlete, but I think he's a very good one. Not slow. I'm not talking like Jalen Tabor from a couple years ago or anything like that, like running a 4.6 or whatever that was. But I think Kiara Elam is what you need in the NFL. Big physical corner that can play press man. He has the game figured out. I've talked to people down at Florida, that work there and things like that. And this is like a year and a half ago. The first thing they said, "Hey, that kid's a pro." And you would expect it, his family and all their uncles and Matt Elam and all those. But they was like, he gets it. He's just a pro, through and through, the way he carries himself, the way he practices, the way he plays the game.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to pass on that guy. Like, am I in love with him? No. But is he perhaps maybe my favorite corner? Like, if that makes sense. Like,
no, I get it. Yeah.
Like, I love watching him play. He's got a couple plays. Like, he's got a pick against South Florida. He breaks on the ball. He just takes it. He took the football and he broke on it well. Like, he's gonna make you fight for everything, and that's what I feel like you need at the next level. It's easy to go out there and say I'm athletic. Well, everybody's athletic. You know what I mean? Like, I won't. How many times did we watch, like, say, the Chiefs before this season, or one of those better teams that we were like, man, I wish they had like a corner that really made guys earn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The guys go out there and get beat. If I'm going against Jamar Chase, guess what? I want a guy that's going to make him earn it. Yeah. I don't want some pretty boy who's athletic and then Chase just takes his lunch money. You know what I mean? I want somebody that's going to go out there and okay, this type of game you want to play, we're going to go at it for 4 quarters. I want Jalen Ramsey. And I feel like Elam kind of has that mindset where, like, I'm the cornerback one. This is what type of game is going to be. And we saw that against Bama. Like, it wasn't a nice day in the office.
Yeah, he's interesting. He's kind of got that, like, again, last year, and I know I said this as a guy who wanted Horn over Surtain because I thought Horn was more of a dog, but I think Elam kind of has a little bit of that Surtain where it's like, it's not like a very vocal dominance or whatever. Like, it's not like an in your face dominant. Like JC Horn, if he did something on you, like, he was going to get in your face about it, and he was going to beat the hell out of you.
Or you hear him.
Or Elam, like, yes, if he makes a play or whatever, he'll celebrate and stuff. But it's kind of like Surtain, where it's like he expects to do that every single
it's just play. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's like, all right, next play. Like, it's very, very confident. I think he's going to be a guy where, we'll see these other dudes go, like, we could see like a McDuffie or Sauce go before him.
Mm-hmm.
But, outside of the top guy, like Stingley, I think could be like an elite corner in the NFL. But, like, outside of that, it wouldn't shock me Elam's the best corner in this class. Like,
not at all. Not at all.
He kind of reminds me, like, I'm not comparing him straight to this player, but you know how Trey White went late in that first round years ago? 100%. And Trey White has just been an all-star corner since then. I could definitely see Elam being that guy where it's like he goes late first round to a good team, and they throw him out there as cornerback 1, and he just locks it down for a decade or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I think that wouldn't be far-fetched at all. When you talk about, he's the type of guy that would fall to people.
He is, because he's not going to be like you could. One of these other guys I'm going to talk about might run like a 4-3 or something. You know, or Sauce. Some team will fall in love with Sauce because of the way he beats the hell out of the receivers he plays against. I just think Elam is a guy where if he goes below those guys, which he absolutely could, I think he's gonna be a steal. I mean, obviously, again, situation matters, but I think he's the guy you could just throw out there as your cornerback 1 on day 1 and be a solid guy.
Well, and I hope he does fall, because that means he'll end up on a better team.
Yeah, that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, he'll probably get have more success. Imagine a guy like Elam falling to like the Cowboys or something. You know what I mean? Like a team, you match him up, not saying like scheme-wise if he's a fit, like if he falls to the Bills, if he falls to the Cowboys, if he falls to the Chiefs.
I'm about to say Chiefs, he's cornerback 1 from day 1.
You know what I mean? Like, he falls one of them guys, and we're like, man, like, how we look up 3 years from now, like, how did they get him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, you people fall in love with some of these other guys, and it's not a bad thing, but some of the best corners in the NFL aren't top 15 picks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's, we talk about traits, and I'm not saying Elam doesn't have traits. Elam has traits. Like, he's a very good corner.
Good.
But it's not like special traits. He's going to be a good tester. He's a battle-tested SEC corner that has good film. Like, he's going to be good in the NFL. Like, I feel very confident in him. Tonight was my first real exposure to him. Well, like, I watched bits and pieces, but tonight was my first time, like, sitting down and really focusing. And you could watch him and you just see NFL corner.
Yeah,
like that's the biggest thing.
He's a pro. Like, you see, like, okay, pro, check.
Yeah, like I didn't even have to look what his number was. I figured it was a single digit number.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was like, that guy after like 3 plays, I think he pinched Jameson Williams on the sideline or something on like a fade on the short side, and I was like, there he
Well,
is.
the
There he
most
is. That's
impressive
him.
part about that was like that play in general. Like watching the game, I was like, I'm a big Bama guy, but I'm watching it. I'm like, man, like they could have easily called that, but I loved it because when you watch it on film, it doesn't look that bad.
No,
You
it's
watch it
not
on
like,
film. He
yeah,
releases, he squeezes, but then he gets like a mean arm bar and like he hits him, and it's like, oh shit, like you know what I mean?
yep,
Like it's
exact play. Yep,
yeah, it's one
exact
of
play.
them.
It's like, again, he's a pro. He's a pro. Like when you watch him, you see it's a pro because that's a pro move.
No,
Like be physical at the. You might get called every now and then for it, but if you get called for it, like
you live with it.
you live with it. If they call it, yeah, once they call it, then you kind of ease off it. But until they call it, that's fine. And yeah, Matt says another good point here. He could go to a team like the Bucks. That would be another really, really good fit.
Yeah,
for him.
he's that type of corner. When you look at Carlson Davis, Jamel Dean's a freak, but
I
you
mean,
know,
if
you
Davis
look,
leaves in free agency, that's a
yeah, like he'd
great
be a
fit.
perfect plug and play like type corner as Carlson Davis.
Yep. Now let's round out this top 5 with everybody's cornerback one. The one that you've kind of getting the most pushback on.
You
We got
can't
Sauce
say anything
Gardner.
bad about him. Like
No.
if you say like people attack you over this guy, like and people think, look, I have this guy as a top 5 corner in my class, and you would think people were like saying like I'm saying he sucked or something. Like,
Yeah.
bro, you're top 5. That means you're first round.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I like Sauce Gardner. Like I think he has the most urgent style of play out of any of these corners in his class.
Oh gosh, when you have the dictionary definition of urgency as a corner, it's him.
Oh,
Like he is
bro,
forcing the issue.
he everything like in press, chasing crossers across the field. Like him and Roger Mccreary, like they chase crossers like it's their life. And I love it. And I love it because like you just see them, they're just going, and then they get a pass break. I'm like, I love that.
Oh, dude, it's one of my favorite things to check off when I'm
Bro,
like just the way someone chases a crosser,
because you're gonna have to do it.
especially if they're like an off or something, and it's like through like a mesh point or something,
Yeah.
and they have to come over the top of that. I'm like, oh, get there. Like
Bro,
I'm just
and they do it consistently. Like Sauce Gardner and Roger McCreary, they do it better than any of the other guys in the class.
Yeah.
But Sauce Gardner, like, I love the fact that he likes to press. I love the fact that he plays urgent. But like, there's a couple red flags that people are just blatantly ignoring. And they're like, I just can't. Like, and they're not red flags that these other guys have. And I just hate the fact that people are like not acknowledging. One, the way they play defense at Cincinnati, it isn't necessarily the most, like compared to most pro guys that come to the NFL, like they aren't playing in a defense where they play back a lot. Like it's not even like the way Andrew Booth does. Like when I say like they're playing, like he plays in the boundary a lot. There's a lot of two. He's getting out a lot and things like that. And then the one time we saw him against an elite receiver, it was like a whole different corner.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same corner that we saw for, for however many years where he didn't give up a touchdown. It looked like a guy who was playing safe.
Yeah,
He did not.
He wasn't, because the thing that pops out about Sauce whenever I watch him is it's two-hand press. It is.
Oh yeah. He's in your. He's trying to bench press you.
Like he is trying to stone you at the line of scrimmage. Now, I'm not saying that's the best plan of attack against Jameson Williams, but when he went against Jameson Williams, like there wasn't even an effort to that.
No. Yeah.
And maybe it was because they were just bailing on everything in that game.
They were getting out of there.
They were getting out. They were dropping deep. They were trying to make Bama go short the entire game. But I'm with you. Like when he got that matchup, the one matchup everybody needed to see. This is the one, because besides that, it's what Calvin Austin is the best receiver.
And the thing is, like Memphis wasn't a very good team, and even then, Calvin Austin actually got behind him, and the ball was a bad ball. I think Cincinnati got pressure, but he was beat on the play, and then it ended up being like a highlight for him because it was a breakup. But it was like if you lay that ball out there for him, Calvin Austin probably goes and gets it. But we didn't really get to see Roberson. Just hasn't looked the same as before he tore the knee. He looked super explosive the year before. But other than that, man, we just didn't get to see the guy against a bunch of elite talent. I don't think the defense did him any favors per se, because Kobe Bryant got got to do more of the fun stuff, because Sauce Gardner is a boundary corner.
Yeah,
he played in the boundary for him. And then two, I think he's just a little bit more raw than these other guys. When you talk about, movement, when you talk about footwork, when you talk about things like that, I think he's just a little bit more raw against these other guys. And if you look raw against, I'll say, subpar competition, it's only going to get exposed once you face the best competition in the NFL. And I've heard some stuff from some of his workouts, and they, at first I think I heard some people saying, it looked kind of rough. I think, people said he was taught, probably taught a little bit wrong here and there. But they said by like week 2 and 3, like they said he looked sharp. He looked good. And that's what excites me. Your ability to get better, your ability to adapt and fix those weaknesses. And that's why he's still a top 5 corner. Like I can't wait to watch him work out at the combine. If he doesn't run a 4.5, like a lot of people are saying he's gonna run, then then I think he's fine. And he could possibly move up. But right now he's too raw, a little bit unproven in my eyes. And it is what it is.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing with him is he doesn't move like these other guys.
Yeah,
you can see it. He's a little like, I don't want to. I hate using the word clunky, but it's always the one that comes to my mind.
I heard clunky in my head. I was like, yeah, clunky. Definitely.
Dude, I say clunky all the time. It's like my go-to phrase for everything. But like, it's a little clunkier. It's not as smooth as the other guys, and it's not like he's an awful athlete. It's just not the same level.
It's not butter. No. When I say a corner, when I watch Trent McDuffie move, I can talk about any of the other guys. McDuffie, Elam, Stingley, Mccreary. Like it's like butter. Like I'm like, oh, whoa. It's like that guy. That's a corner.
And the thing with Sauce too, that like it's hard to talk about on Twitter. It's hard to talk about it.
Man. Oh, it's like a cult, bro.
It's like a faux pas now. Like you can't, if you say it, man. Like it, it's coming after you. But like, I feel like the 2-hand press thing didn't help him much. Like because yes, it's awesome. Like it helped your college team. You were locking down that side. No one's going at you. These guys are taking 5 seconds to get off the line of scrimmage. You're never going to get targeted. But when you go to the NFL, if the only thing in your press toolbox is 2-hand press,
bro, you're getting ate up.
You're gonna get eat up. Like I watched Elam and Sauce back to back tonight before we jumped on here. And Elam could be physical with his hands at the line. He could match you off the line. He could bump and run. He was doing a lot in that Bama game where you could say like, oh, he's got a lot in his press toolbox.
Yeah.
Where like if he goes to any team where like that one that teaches like step kick or one that teaches mirror, like he can do those things. I feel confident. If Sauce goes like, Sauce has to be able to like bring more things in press.
You can't be a one-dimensional guy. Like I know I got a chance to talk to Roger, and I asked him. I was just like, "What type of corner are you?" And he's like, "Well, I like to switch it like week to week depending on how I'm playing guys or who I'm playing." And I was like, "I love that because you'll be surprised how many times I talk to corners and they don't know."
Oh, dude, that's my number one question to ask corners.
Bro, they don't know. They say that. I inch out every time. Okay.
It's hit or miss, man. Like some of them will tell me you got to change it up.
Yeah.
But then when I push them a little bit, they're like, "Oh, I like to inch out." I'm like, you gotta. I was trying to trick
watching you. Like you gotta think you're being studied. Like, imagine you think Davante Adams is just good because he works on routes.
Yeah.
No. He's watching you. Like he's watching you.
He knows how to, especially in press.
Yeah. Oh, how did he get the better of AJ Brown? Let me see. Oh yeah, that ain't working this week. Cool. Got him. Yeah. You better come with something new.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example. Bringing up AJ Brown there too. Do you think Sauce is going to be able to 2-hand jam AJ Brown with the line?
Shit. I bet. Look, he's probably like, please do. Please, he's like, please do. I'll weigh you by 40
pounds. If you touch AJ Brown at the line of scrimmage, you have lost,
bro. Try to do that. Try to 2-hand press AJ Brown or Deebo Samuels. Watch what they do to you.
Yeah.
They're gonna ragdoll you. Like they're gonna ragdoll you, and that's no shot at him. That's any corner that tries to do that because they do it week in and week out.
We saw Xavier Rhodes this year play both those guys. And he had better success against Deebo, but AJ Brown, for instance, toasted him.
Yeah, so, all right, cool, boom.
And we're talking the different, like, Sauce is probably a better athlete than Xavier Rhodes is now. But Sauce is, what, 6'1", 187? Or 6'2", 187?
My boy told me he was all of 6'3".
Is he 6'3"? Okay,
They said
so
he was
he's
all at 6'3".
six
So
three, but I think on the site he's listed 187 or something.
yeah,
He's a little
light,
skinnier.
real light, light in the
Where
bridges.
Xavier Rhodes is 6'4", like 210, like
I
215.
look, I know for a fact when Xavier Rhodes came in the NFL, he was like 219,
Yeah. And
big body.
he can't out physical AJ Brown and some of these
Yeah,
other guys. So I'm like, can Sauce be a very good press corner? Yes.
yeah.
Am I willing to say he's the best press corner in his class like others are right now? No. I just you got to have a more mixed bag at the line, and I think
Well, even Trayvon Diggs was physical off the line in college. Go watch
yeah,
LSU versus Alabama. He was jacking Jamar Chase up and losing
yeah,
the rep.
yeah,
Like he did it 3 different times. I swear he jump jammed Jamar Chase. I'm like, oh, and then Jamar Chase catches a 30-yard ball. I'm like, what
yeah.
happened? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. But all this, all this talking down on your number 5 corner here to say, like, I like Sauce a lot. I think,
yeah,
top 40 or top 50 guy. Like, I
yeah.
think
Good football player.
very good football player. Very good. He's competitive. He's a dog. And I always say how much I love these dog corners. I just, like you said, I think there's more red. Obviously, Mccreary has the biggest red flag, but I think
Yeah.
Sauce has more red flags than any of these guys that are being talked about this high. And I'm a little more nervous about him. And especially if you're talking, some people have him as a top 10 overall player in the class. I just don't see it. I feel like you have to be a special mover or a special athlete.
You don't fall into that range unless you check the boxes and then some.
Yeah.
And then there's no questions. Like there's a competition question there. When was the last time a group of 5 corner went top 15? I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I can't even think of one.
Honestly. Because it's so hard to be like, oh, okay. We're just gonna skip that middle area and we're gonna go right to the elite. And it doesn't mean it's not possible. Like we've had some great corners come out of group of 5, HBCUs, things like that, and they're freaky. But it's like I said, I can't bet on 2 outliers.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I'm with you. I like Sauce a lot. I think he's going to be a good pro. I would want to calm down a little bit with the 100%. That's my thing there. Let's go through these next guys a little faster here because we are closing on the hour mark. But we got the 2 Washington guys next: Trent McDuffie, Kyler Gordon. I watched a little bit of them, but I can't really talk too much on them. What do you like about these guys?
McDuffie, he may be a top 5 guy for a lot of people, and I wouldn't be mad at it. He's kind of just like what Washington puts out, solid cornerback. Yeah. I don't think anybody would have him in that elite company, but I think he's a really good corner to take in round 2. Moves really well. It's always in a good position, competitive, good athlete, things like that. And then Gordon, who's kind of the other mode, freak athlete. Yes. Super violent style of play. Not as good off the line. I would say off the line, he's probably the worst in the top 10. I mean, if there's a negative, I don't think he's as good as the other guys in press. But when playing off, he may be a top 3 guy because how violent he breaks. His feet are super good, and he gets there in a hurry. So those 2, that's pretty much sums it up. McDuffie's is probably a little bit better overall. And Gordon, has things to work on, but freak athlete. So a lot of people are going to bet on it.
Yeah, I like McDuffie, I think, a little better from what I saw. He's just so smooth. Like everything's smooth.
Butter.
Which I love that in my corners. Then we got some other guys here. We got Armour Davis from Alabama, Kobe Bryant, and then Martin Emerson at 10. So talk about those 3 guys and why the specific ranking, like where those guys are in your rankings there.
So I had Jalen Armour Davis, and I added an extra Y in there on his name. So I'm sorry. He's a another Mobile guy. Him and Mccreary actually, not too far from each other in high school. But Jalen Armour Davis came along this year as kind of a guy that I was betting on because I heard a lot of rumbling. Very good in press, man. Solid year for the Crimson Tide. Didn't get to see him at the end of the year because he was banged up, and that's kind of been the story with him. He's been banged up throughout his college career. Elite athlete. When that guy tests,
smooth from what I saw. Like his feet are really smooth.
When he tests, so I think the joke at Bama, he's the kick side king. That's the tag they gave him, and you watch it on film, it's perfect. A lot of teach tape in there. Really good with his hands, shooting them. I think he's a top 3 press corner in this class. You watch him early in the season, uber competitive, surprised a lot of people. I was really high on him. He's got the size, great athlete. I think when we talk about testing wise, I think Stingley, I think Booth's going to test extremely well. And I think Gordon's going to test extremely well. Don't be shocked if Jalen Armour-Davis and Booth test close. I know Jalen Armour-Davis like a 10-7 kid in high school, something like that, so he can move. But big fan of him. Health is obviously the biggest flag for me.
Yeah.
Or else he would be higher. And then at 8, who'd I have? Kobe Bryant right there?
Oh, you had Kobe at 9. Let me pull it back up. Kobe Bryant, the Thorpe winner at 9.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. 8, Kobe Bryant, a little bit more of the same. Older guy, good size, good length. So I'm at the Senior Bowl this week. Wasn't overly impressed. Not bad, not a bad week at all. But kind of, he may be below Emerson now in my head.
Yeah.
But I haven't, we don't get to see Emerson in an all-star setting, so it's a little bit unfair. But Kobe Bryant, solid football player. He was Cincinnati's cornerback 1. Had a really good bowl game last year against Georgia. Solid football player, man, and I like his game. He's twitchy enough. He's gonna be. I think he's gonna be a solid cornerback 2 type. In the NFL eventually. He's gonna be a guy. He's gonna be a good development corner. I think when a team takes him, be a good backup for a minute. Solid football player. And then 10, the guy that I have, I tagged him as the guy to watch. I put like best, my favorite, and then the guy to watch when I tweeted this list out, and it was Martin Emerson. Martin Emerson was a guy early in the season. I think Mel Kiper and them, they kind of jumped the gun a little bit, and they had him as like a first rounder. They were trying to get ahead of it, kind of create like a little bit of a snowball thing. But he got beat a couple times, and the style of play, he doesn't play as urgent as you would like. But if you like Sauce Gardner, you're gonna like Martin Emerson. He's longer, he's bigger, and he played in the SEC. So he played against the best, and he got beat by the best every now and then. But he still has some very good film. Good cornerback prospect. I think he's gonna be a guy that goes up. He's gonna ascend a little bit more than people think. I think he's gonna probably settle in that second round range when it's all said and done. Excited about him and his upside because he can play ball. He has great size, and he's a really good pro prospect.
Yeah. He popped when I was watching him a little bit before we jumped on. I didn't watch a ton, but he's big, man.
Yeah.
He's big. Like Sauce looks skinny. You can even see in this picture right here. Sauce kind of looks like the smaller version of him.
Who was it?
It's just Emerson is a tank, man.
Yeah, no, he's a big body out there. When you talk about, I think Mccreary and Sauce Gardner are 2 of the lighter ones. Mccreary looks thicker on the field though.
He does.
You know what I mean? So he looks a little bit thicker on the field. Sauce Gardner's light, but aside from that, bro, like all these guys are like pretty well built corners. Like there's no little guys out there. There's not a corner in this class where you sit there and you go, man, they're little. Like Booth and Elam and Emerson, they're all stout corners. They look the part.
Yeah, Jake says 6'2", 200 for him. I think it was like 202 or something, 203.
Yeah, solid kid.
Yeah, I think he's gonna test fairly well. Like not great, but I think he's gonna test fairly well too. So
hey, and that'll be enough to jump him. A younger guy. I think Armour-Davis, I think Emerson, I think they're gonna test out pretty well, and I think they're probably both gonna jump a little bit higher than people think, because those scouts, they see it. It's not, you can't ignore it. You know what Kobe Bryant is, but you can't just blatantly ignore the upside from a guy like Emerson.
Yeah, for sure. So I got a couple other guys here that I've seen in some people's top 10s, and I'm wondering where you would like, even if they're not like, if you don't have like a ranking for them yet, just what you think of them. We got, I think it's Darion Kendrick from Georgia, is how you say his name. I know he's a super talented kid. He was at Mobile. I think there's some off field there with him, right?
Yeah, I've heard some stuff with Kendrick. And it's been there for a while. It's a known thing. You talk to people, in the football world. I don't know how much of it has been since Georgia. but at Clemson it was a thing, and there's a reason why he left.
Yeah.
So he's had issues in the past, and hopefully they're behind him. He's capable. I wasn't blown away at Mobile, by him at Mobile, but he's a guy who I think can play football. I think he's solid, but just didn't quite put it all together this season. I think him and Booth went in two opposite directions stock wise because I think they both were trending first, and then Kendrick, you throw the flags in, and he probably got beat a little bit more than you would like, and then at times in Mobile he looked lost.
Yeah.
Like he got washed. But it doesn't mean he's a bad pro prospect, but solid player. He was right outside the top 10 for me. He was a guy that was out, like in the conversation, like way in the conversation. But ultimately he didn't make the list. I felt better about the other guys.
Yeah, and then we got arguably the freakiest player in the whole class.
Big
from
boy.
UTSA.
Yeah, right down the road for me.
Yeah, might have the freakiest player in the whole class, Tariq Woolen. I think he had a decent week.
Yeah, solid week, man. I think he probably exceeded expectations. Not a perfect prospect at all. I know I saw on Twitter Crow was talking about he would work with him and things like that, and that'd be great for him because he's another big athletic guy.
Yeah.
But former wide receiver, there's something there. I think if you say he's a top 10 guy, you're betting more on the upside.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's better than the 10 guys that I would say at corner. If I line those 10 up against the same 10 receivers, I don't know if he has more success than any of them. But if you have
maybe
him
in 2 years, maybe 2 years from now,
with some work and some things like that, because the kid, you're hitting 22.4 miles per hour at 205, bro. Like, you're a different type of animal.
Yeah, the whispers are he's gonna run 4.2s or maybe low 4.3s. Like he can fly.
Look, it'll be hard. It'll be hard to keep him out of the first round or second if you go in there at 6'3" and some change, 6'4", 200 plus, and you run 4.2. That's just the nature of the beast. Seattle's gonna snatch him up. I don't know if they have a first, but
they will trade every pick they have.
That's their dream. He was like, "Hey, did y'all see what we did with Sherman, the former wide receiver? Did y'all see? Watch what we do with this guy."
Yeah. He's a freak. He needs some work, but I'm really intrigued by what happens with his career. He could be like I know this guy's a safety, but he could be like an Obi Melifonwu, where it's like tests out of the world and do nothing.
I never got that. Like I think it was before I really dove into the the scouting world. But even then, like as a player, I was like, y'all wild right now. I was like
terrible football player. Really good.
I was like, I get it. Byron Jones, I get it. He came in good football player. Byron was actually like a top 50 guy. What I'm saying, for some people, you know what I mean? He was solid.
Yeah.
Obi just tested out his word. People were like, we got another one. No, relax.
Another Taylor Mays. Another Taylor Mays is what it was.
Yeah, special teams. That's what he was good for. That's what he's made for.
Yep. And then we got Mario Goodrich from Clemson as well, the other guy. What do you think about him?
Similar situation. We got to see a lot more Booth. Obviously last year, the Clemson had Kendrick. We just don't get to see those guys a ton.
Yeah.
Right. Goodrich is a good player. He was a guy that I had to go back and watch a lot more film, and I like him a lot more. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely in that top 10 area. Wasn't blown away at Mobile either. Like typically, at corner, I want to see you have a week. If you're gonna be a guy, if you're gonna be a top 50 player, top 60 player, like usually you can kind of tell.
You have to have a Rockison week. That's what we're all asking. That's what we're asking.
That's what I want. Like, I don't expect you to win every rep, but I want people to be like, God, like that guy, he's not going nowhere.
Rockison is like what I compare good weeks to for corners down there. Because Debo got him a lot. Yeah. But like Debo had to work his ass off for every catch.
Like Rock, I think, and Trey White. Trey White comes to mind.
Oh, was he down there too? I think that was a little before me.
A couple years ago. But the only reason I noticed it because I played him that year. And
okay.
Like I thought I was like Tre'Davious White. I was like, that's the best guy. So I was keeping Tre'Davious White is definitely top 4, football players I've ever played, like top 3 that I played against. Like very, very good player. Like I'm obviously off all pro, but no. So that
hot take
year,
there, big hot
yeah.
take.
but yeah, I was a junior that year, and then he was a senior, so he came out that year, and so I kept up with him. I was like, oh, he's down at the Senior Bowl, and I was like, okay, like he helped himself, really competitive, look good in the drills, leader, type. That's what I want to see from him. I think Goodrich has a chance to climb. I don't know how much of a rise because, like I said, I think those other guys. I think the highest Goodrich could probably go, that 7 range, 8 range. Like you know what I mean. But solid corner. Like I think if somebody said they liked him more than Kendricks or liked him more than Woolen, I'd be like, cool.
Yeah. And the last question I want to ask you is actually something I didn't prep you for, so I'm going to throw you on the spot here.
Okay.
There's a lot of these day 3 corners that I keep watching, just glimpses of, that are just these big dudes who would be so good for the Colts.
Yeah.
Jake mentions one right here. Cam Taylor-Britt, I think would be great. I think the kid
Bama
from
boy.
Tennessee. Huh? Bama boy, you said?
Yeah, he's from Montgomery.
How'd he end up at, what was that, Nebraska?
Hey, man. Hey, the state of Alabama's recruiting is very weird, but Cam Taylor-Britt is from Montgomery. So
Yep. So again, he's a big guy who will come up and kill people. Alante Taylor from Tennessee, I think, is another type. I kind of like the Kyler McMichael kid from North Carolina as well. Former. I think he was a former.
Who talked to him? Did you talk to him?
Yeah, I talked to him.
Okay.
But he's a former Clemson kid who went to North Carolina, so he can move a little bit. But it's like a lot of these big. This is a big corner class.
No, they are.
Like, is it just me, or are these just like these are big corners, and they all love hit people? Like they will kill you.
The thing is, all the little guys went back to school.
They did.
When you look at like Thomason, when you look at Mullen, when you look at like a lot of the smaller guys, they were like, you know what, I'm gonna come back next year.
Yeah.
And
we're not gonna compare with the 6'2".
Yeah. Like, we're gonna stay out of that one. But Cam Taylor-Britt definitely is physical. I think he would be he'd be a guy you take a chance on if you're the Colts. But if I'm the Colts, I'm taking Alante Taylor.
Yeah.
He was a guy that initially, he was supposed to be a top 10 guy in or higher. And I know coming to the year, I think the NFS had him like he was the top senior corner, things like that. So obviously the scouts think highly of the kid. I wasn't in love with his film this year, and I think he would be perfect for somebody like the Colts.
Yeah.
On day 3. It seems like he's not a finished product, but he's very capable, and he seems like an athletic and competitive kid. And that way, he's the type of guy that you don't have to sacrifice giving up something on the outside as far as ability. He just hasn't put it all together yet. And if there's a guy that I'm the Colts and I'm penciling, it's probably Alante Taylor.
Yeah. My favorite thing about Alante Taylor is no matter what, right? After every play, you could burn him down the field. He's going to get in your face and he's going to be talking.
Oh yeah, no. I think he has like blonde hair and stuff like that.
He has to be like, I'm watching these games on like mute because the All-22 film, you can't hear anything, and I'm like, I can hear like him yelling. Like he is.
Yeah, no. He seems like he's on it. He seems like he's definitely on it. Like I don't love the prospect, but I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And that's not a negative. People, like, he's a guy that definitely could be in that, that area, that bottom, 11 through 12, 13 type corner for me. He just hasn't put it all together yet. And I think this is a solid corner class.
Yeah.
This is a really good, capable and solid cornerback class. And Josh, and I know we didn't mention the guy, and it probably won't. Josh Jobe is probably a guy the Colts would probably want. I'm not a fan of him because I feel like he got pushed as a first, second round guy because he didn't get challenged as much at Bama. But he was so good in his role as a cornerback too at Bama. I think him being the athlete that he is, and if you don't ask him to do too much, I think he's very capable. And I think he would be a guy that somebody like the Colts would possibly do because he's a stout kid. He's not the most flexible, but he's a great mover. And, he would be a guy that I think they would possibly take a chance on late. Like, I think Josh Jobe's stock is down. But
yeah, no, for sure. Like, Jake, there's going to be plenty of guys, I think. Because I think that the Colts range for a corner is going to be that, like, early day 3.
Yeah.
Because they only have 2 picks in the top 100 this year. So they're going to need, I think they need a left tackle. They're going to need a receiver, which we'll probably do receiver.
You got to hit on those.
Yeah, we'll probably do receiver next week.
Okay.
Because that's That's the other one. That's another position that's so visceral with how people go at it.
Why don't you love Drake London?
Why is Drake London not your top 10 overall player?
Traylon Burke is the best receiver. He's AJ Brown and Julio Jones. Like,
the pro comps, man, for the receivers always kill me. So yeah, we'll go over the receivers next week. But I think day 3 is a good range for the Colts when it comes to corner. Even though I think you and I would both agree, especially now, with the Colts going more to like the Seattle cover 3 look, is they need another safety bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Safety is going to be
hey, look, you know who's going to be good for them, and they may be able to get him is Verone or I think Verone McKinley.
Yeah.
Just because he actually has the range to be able to play it.
Yeah. They just need a third guy because Blackman's going to be coming off another major injury. You know, it'd be a second because he tore his Achilles now and he tore his ACL coming out. So in 2 years, he's had 2 major injuries. And then Carl Willis is the box guy. You just need a third guy with their injury history. Verone McKinley would be nice though. He'd be pretty nice with that.
Well, and I think in the NFL, like he's a good football player. But I think he's the guy that you throw him back there and you let him play free safety.
Yeah.
And you get a guy that instinctive with those ball skills, I think you get an instant impact guy right away.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Jake, there are going to be a lot of guys on day 3, I think, for the Colts in the secondary. It's not a great class up top. It's not. Yeah. There's no quarterbacks really up there. There's not. It's just not a great class in the first round, honestly. In my opinion.
A ton of edge guys.
Yeah.
Some solid cornerbacks. You know, the receivers, some capable receivers are there, but it's not. You're not gonna love. The tackle class actually. The top 3 guys for me, and I had Cross high for a while, but Evan Neal, Cross, and Akeem, I think all 3 of those guys would go pretty early.
Yeah, we'll talk tackles eventually. Those are my 3, like they're gonna be like 3 super high grades in our guide for me. Yeah. I'm like taking over our guide with offensive tackles just with those 3, but we'll get to those positions as well. But yeah, no, I think this class where it lacks in top talent. You're going to have a lot of guys who are, you're 23, 24, maybe even 25, which aren't really great for development. But you'll have these guys who are on day 3 who are older, who have experience, who have been doing it for years, who know what they're doing. And I think you're going to have a lot more day 3 production in year 1 than past draft classes.
Super seniors, baby.
Yeah, super senior. We're seeing the super seniors come out. So corners, I think there will be some corners to have for the Colts later in this draft. But that's all we got for this week, guys. I know we went pretty in depth with those top 5 guys. I think we did like 50 minutes on the top 5 guys. So that's us. That's us when it comes to corners. Receivers, we'll try to cut it down a little bit more, guys. But tune in next week for another episode of the SI Colts Draft Show. I had to look at the title as I said that, but tune in next week again, guys. We'll go live Wednesday night. Check it. See you guys next week.